All right, so you can see a little more of the character. Please have a seat, guys. There's plenty of room. Or not. Stand there all creepy, man. Being all weird about it. Okay.
I was lucky enough to do a gig in Chicago where I was hired to recreate the cast of Seinfeld with industrial film, where they basically shot the whole industrial film as if it was an episode of Seinfeld, and I was able to be involved with the casting, which helped a lot. The guy who we did as Michael Richards was so good that he went out to have drinks in bars after we shot, and people was buying drinks every night. We got pretty drunk in the show.
Well, I've done a few successful likeness makeups. I did one of Ray Charles on an actor who didn't look anything like him. And when I was done, it was remarkable. Now, we're helped a great deal by the fact that Ray Charles wore big blind guy glasses, but this guy's nose didn't look like him. He didn't have any chin. His hairline wasn't right. And he just, you know, Aaron Kruger McCosh, who's an excellent makeup artist, and we managed to make it work. It was really, really cool.
You don't have to know who Greg Eagles is, do you? It wasn't involving Greg Eagles, was it? Because of Ray Charles in the first name?
No. Okay, so little by little, I can establish more and more of a character.
Pretty.
What?
I said pretty.
I'm sorry, what?
Pretty?
What?
Oh, you know what I said. That'll teach me to speak out.
What? Hmm? Okay, so we're at the point where we can start using tools. You'll notice I did everything with my hands thus far. Maybe one of the things we could do turn this towards you guys. The light is so much better on this side. Would you please? Just kidding, baby. first tool I like to use to start cleaning up the form is a kidney rake. Okay, so it's just an aluminum rake. So I can just start really controlling the form quickly and easily.
Hello?
The next tool that I use is a large loop rake. Okay, so it's got teeth cut in. And again, this is really just large scale control. We're not into fine control yet. How old are you now, Mike?
27.
Did he say that's old?
Wait for that.
Yeah, I was like, we might get smashed if I
Felt old when I was.
Oh, did you? Wait till things hurt. You'll be like, oh, that's old. That's old. Oh my God, I'm 45. That's old. I'm not saying old is 45, but filthy. I just became my grandfather. Isn't that neat? Well, sort of. Step-grandfather or something. My wife's son, Anakin. I'm Anakin. And
Are you reacting directly to what you're sculpting? Or are you like fast forwarding in your mind how you want the thing to be?
yeah, I'm fast forwarding. At this point, I'm fast forwarding. Yes.
Do you ever get caught up on symmetry? Like, is that a necessity, or?
Well, I don't think you should worry about symmetry to the point of it slowing you down monstrously. I think if you're very concerned about a particular sculpture, like say you're sculpting a helmet or a robot or something that has to be literally symmetrical, mechanically symmetrical, use a mirror, have a mirror in front of you at all times and just kind of rotate it. For monster shit, I mean, who cares? It's a fucking monster. But changing it a bit.
That's sick.
And as you work, you'll see little things you need to change or things that need work. Never fall so in love with your work that you don't want to change it if you see something wrong. If you see something wrong, you've got to go back in there and fix it, because it'll bother you forever. I mean, I'll probably never see the sculpture again, so who cares? But
Did you ever do something this size, Jordu and Siobhan?
Sure. All my early sculpture was done in Roma, you know, like a similar kind of clay, oil-based clay.
It's not as forgiving as it what is though. Like that
Well,
shape-
it's every bit as forgiving. It just takes more time
yeah, that
to
shape
fix
you just
stuff.
made on the lip there. I mean, that would have taken twice as long to do that, right?
Oh, I don't know. Not that good. This is one of the downsides to wet clay. It's like stepping in dog shit. you start getting a little more life once you carve into the eyes. You usually start getting a little bit of life in there. Still trying to figure out how to make it something cool and fantasy. I didn't like the teeth. So just a few worms of clay start giving it some expression in the brow. Let me show you from this angle. Okay, so I take a worm of clay. Blend off the ends, and you can start getting forehead wrinkles. See how much emotion it gives it now? All right, Mike, you tell me. How do I make it a monster?
Oh my god. I think it looks like one of the prequel. I like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's not extreme enough, though. There has to be, usually in creature design, I think it's good to have one extreme element. One element that catches your eye and is the primary design motif. Right now, this is a kind of interesting face. I mean, if you saw them, you'd probably be disturbed. But it's not quite extreme enough. And I want to do something that feels a little more extreme.
Third eye.
That might be a little corny, John.
Some electrode and exposed brain.
Well, then it just becomes a Frankenstein man.
Bell palsy.
Huh?
A radical asymmetry, a palsy on one side or something.
So you're saying that people who have had strokes are monsters? Right? Monsters? I think that's a little extreme, sir. I'll come up with something.
More animal-like nose.
Yeah, I'm kind of considering some animal qualities.
Dog jowl.
Dog jowl.
Yeah, like bulldog jowl.
I think I'm gonna make some extreme teeth. Yeah, I think I've got it.
Are you saying a dentally challenged?
Yes.
A little
Okay.
long in the tooth.
So we started kind of goofy like this. But then we can probably make it more convincing.
Ah.
By throwing on a lower lip. Okay. And by giving it just a bit of a smile. Because everyone knows that smiling is creepy. Inappropriate smiling is creepy. My cat just died. Cat's dead. What's funny about that? Nothing. I don't like that. Well, I don't like that. I don't like that. It doesn't quite work for me. So now I'm really in a quandary.
What does it mean for you to some feel to be convincing?
Well, did you ask that? That's a very good question. What does it need to feel convincing to me? And again, going back to that, understanding nature's code in a way, understanding nature's design sense, style. If it doesn't feel to me that nature would do it, then it's not right, you know. It's something that comes with experience, I think. Eventually, you just kind of you can see clearly what's right and what's wrong. I know that doesn't, it's not really a concrete answer, but I think so much of it has to do with just an instinct that you develop over time. And in a way, it's not so much being able to pinpoint that it doesn't look right. It's being able to pinpoint what about it doesn't look right. For instance, any human being, even a layman who's not an artist, can usually tell if someone's wearing makeup, like a prosthetic makeup, or if a fake head is fake. And the finer your eye gets, the better you're able to discern not only what it is that makes it look fake, but get a finer and finer, a more finely attuned sense of what makes something look fake, even when it's incredibly well done. Do you know what I'm saying?
Is this some sort of logic you're looking at? For example, if you put these teeth on the nose instead of the mouth.
It's kind of logic, but it comes down to something subtler than that. There was a certain, I don't want to say je ne sais quoi, because that sounds stupid, but there's a certain something that nature has that you know when you're not looking at the real thing. I'm trying to think of a really good example. Okay, I'll give you an example. Have you ever seen a movie called Misery? No?
Yeah.
Well, there's a scene at the end where the bad guy, who happens to be a woman, gets bested by our hero. He gets the upper hand, and he makes her fall, and her head hits the typewriter that's on the floor. Bing! And they use this horrendous fake head of Kathy Bates with eyes that were too bright blue. The skin looked absurdly translucent. The paint job was bad. It just, immediately you knew this is fake. Anybody could tell it was fake. As you go down the line and you see fake heads that are better and better and better, you develop a more finely attuned sense of what's not quite right. I've seen some astounding false heads. And you can, even within those, you can usually pick out something about it where you're kind of like, oh, that looks a little sculpted, or that looks a little bit, you know, my work's guilty of it, everyone's, because we cannot duplicate nature exactly. So that's sort of part of what's going on here. Now, interestingly, I kind of messed with it, and I actually like that more. It feels a little more weird and convincing. It's kind of a little too Phantom of the Opera, maybe, for me right now. So maybe I could bring the nose down, or make the nose more extreme.
study animal anatomy too?
Oh,
Maybe morph it
absolutely.
with the human?
Absolutely. Animal anatomy for this kind of work is every bit as important a study as human. Because all we have to go on, really, are the things that we know of that exist already. You know what I mean? And I've seen people try to think completely out of the box and create life forms that no one's ever seen before. But I mean, it never comes off as terribly convincing because it's something no one's ever seen before. So it comes off absurdist. You know what I mean? No?
So where's the barrier? Like, why are we able to accept some sort of video of like crazy deep sea creatures, but you know when we look at a fabricated creature, like you know why can't we? Like I mean maybe it's something as simple as like you can't sculpt a cell, you know, as you were saying.
What are you getting at?
Well, there are some pretty ridiculous looking things out there.
And yet you know they're real when you see them.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, that's a really good question. Maybe it goes into some spiritual mumbo-jumbo horseshit, the fact that we're all made of the same star stuff, and we recognize when something is made of that. But I think it goes beyond that. I hate to bring up the specter of 9/11 again, but when I saw that happening, I was in LA. When I didn't see them hit, but I was there when the buildings were starting to list, and it was just obviously the biggest catastrophe. I knew that what I was looking at was real. Now, obviously, I was being told that by the journalists and the people going, oh my God, and you know, it's obvious it was real. But it also held a quality of truth that no special effect could. You knew that you were seeing what was really happening. So many things that are now being incorporated into special effects of buildings blowing up and crap were learned from seeing that. Because no one had ever seen that before. Nothing that horrifically catastrophic had ever happened before. Ever. For instance, who knew that there would be a billion sheets of paper everywhere? Well, of course. The place is full of paper. Who would have thought that the explosion would come out the other side? You know, most special effects artists up till then, it came in and boom, that's where the explosion would be. No, it came out the other side. Of course, logic. And of course they fell like this and not like this. Because the melting of the steel. You know, conspiracy morons be damned. That's why. Somehow we know the real thing. When I look at forensic books of horrible things that have happened, and it's not because it says Grisham's book of, you know, horror or whatever, you know, oh my God, that's real. You just know it deep in your bones. It sinks in a way that no special effects thing can. Now, I've seen some really convincing fake bodies. I saw a fake body that my friend Richie Alonso and a few others did for a movie called The Black Dahlia, which is about a mysterious murder that took place in the 30s, I think, in LA. It's considered one of the most mysterious murders. They never found out, blah, blah, blah. This woman was bisected. I mean, it was hideous. It's a real thing. It's horrible. And they made a body that was horrifying, looked really good. I knew it wasn't real. Not because I knew consciously, but because on a subconscious level, and this is sort of what her question was, on a subconscious level, we just know. We just know. And again, I don't know if that gets into some spiritual horse shit about like, because we just have this innate sense as animals ourselves, we recognize it. But human beings can almost always tell the real from the fake. I'll give you a funny example. I'll turn this towards you while I talk about stupid shit. When I was about 13, I decided I want to play a joke on some a practical joke with friends. And I made a fake hand. I took some bones from an old skeleton kit I had, and I kind of put some clay and latex on it and made this gnarly looking hand. And I went down to this old creek that we used to play in that had a car in the creek. An old car from the 70s. It crashed there. It was filled with dirt. It was so creepy. And I kind of put the hand in there and obscured it with dirt. And the bones were showing, this rotting skin. And I put this fake note on some old coffee-stained paper. You kids don't play around here no more. You'll end up like some bullshit. And I was like, this is gonna freak these motherfuckers out. So I told my friend Mike and Dave, say, hey, let's go play down at the creek. They were like, all right. Well, we started down there and I immediately got hit by a car, so we didn't go that time. I did. I got hit horribly by a car. It was like fucked up. But it's okay. I was wearing my stupid little loser helmet and I didn't crack my skull. I might not be here if I hadn't. But the second time, we went down and I had my little hand committed with dirt on it and latex. It was so crazy. They're going to be like, oh no, we've got to get out of here, Jordu. We went down and immediately my friend Dave went, this is fake. He picked it up. Fucking 13-year-old fucking kid. Phil said, yeah, it's fake. What, this is plastic or something. I was like, he's like, who put this note here? This is bullshit. First of all, I was horribly humiliated. And I never told him. I was like, I don't know. But Dave immediately knew. 13. You should be able to scare a 13-year-old fucking kid. Nowadays, if I was to take a 13-year-old and show him something I made, I bet I could fuck him up pretty bad. But at the time, I mean, that is real. That is. That's your mother. That's your mother. That's your mother. Oh God, no! No, it's fucked up. I'm sorry. It's not funny. It is. Fake, in a weird way, and yet you somehow know it's real. It's a strange mix. Very strange thing.
But to a certain extent, it is a practiced skill. Like you were saying, you know, the more and more you look at it, the more and more you're able to pick out the minutiae. What may fool one person may not necessarily fool another.
That's right.
But there seems to be a ceiling that we can't seem to crack. And I mean, I'm not asking for an answer. It's just an interesting discussion.
No, I agree. I think that is true. And we're always trying. You know, we're always trying to crack it. We see things. I mean, I've seen things in movies that convinced me. You know, I mean, as much as I hate to say something, it's not practical. Jurassic Park convinced my shit. Like, the T-Rex did. Now, the Brachiosaur, which is in broad daylight, which is the first dinosaur you see, I went, nope, it looks ghostly and weird, and the movement seems kind of weird. And T-Rex was really good. That looked real to me. I don't think anyone thought that looked fake. It moved like a real animal. I mean, it was beautiful. It was perfect. And I've seen some makeups that are done digitally and, of course, practically. But in my adult life, it's harder and harder to convince me. But obviously, you must have seen Batman, The Dark Knight, whatever. That Two-Face shit was right. Like, that looked really, really good. It looked very convincing to me. It's not realistic in the sense that someone whose face was like all burned away by acid would not. I mean, it's absurd, but it is a comic. I don't know. I mean, it's a fascinating subject. It's worthy of. You know, they bring it up in the uncanny valley. You know, the uncanny valley concept. Like, did you see Rogue One?
Yes.
That Peter Cushing was whack. I don't care what people say. That Peter Cushing looked fake. Now, a lot of people thought it looked real. A lot of people thought it was excellent. I thought it looked phony as shit. I thought that Princess Leia at the end looked fake as a $2 bill. Actually, they used to have $2 bills. $3 bill. They're not there yet. Period. movie is. They cannot recreate humans at all. I've seen some amazing modeling, you know, like 3D renders and shit that are incredible. But I have not seen one moving and speaking where I'm go. How did they do that, you know? I don't think it can be done quite yet. They may get it real close, but they ain't very good. And what's scary is, if they had tried this 20 years ago, 24 years ago, when Jurassic Park came out, it would look garbagey. Now, almost 25 years later, they do it and it's disturbingly close. So 20 years from now, when I'm dead, maybe they'll nail it, I don't know. But that Peter Cushing evidently was the most expensive digital asset ever created for a film. And it missed the mark by a mile.
And it was just the face too. They used the body actor.
There was one shot, not where he's speaking, where he turns towards the camera, kind of suddenly, like, what did you say? And I was like, ooh, that looks pretty real. And then it talked and it was all blown.
I guess you don't get there without trying. So.
I don't know, and that really comes down to what you're talking about, what she asked about. It's a fascinating thing to study, and something that special effects artists, both in our realm and in the digital realm, are constantly studying. Why doesn't this look right? Why? And it gets down to such fine little micrometer things that we cannot figure it out. You know, sometimes when I'm doing likenesses, I'm just baffled. What is wrong? What is wrong? What is wrong? You know? And it takes a tremendous amount of observation to figure out.
Something like Peter Cushing, do you prefer to see them fail trying to do it with prosthetics, or to see them fail doing it with CG?
I would prefer not to have them failed at all. I'd prefer to have been like, oh my God, how did they do that? That is gratifying to me. I don't enjoy watching bad effects or effects that cost a lot of money and don't work. I'm gratified when they do it. That makes the movie-going experience like magic again. I would have preferred to see them succeed by not being so arrogant to think that they should do it all with digital. Because that is Industrial Light and Magic's agenda. Everything's digital. They've gotten rid of the model shop, they've gotten rid of the makeup, they've gotten rid of the creature shop, they've gotten rid of all that shit. And it's a very corporate entity. I taught there, and it's so corporate now. It used to be a bunch of fucking hippies just trying to figure shit out, like Rick Baker's studio in the early 80s. Now it's this corporate entity. They have an agenda, and they've had it since Jurassic Park, probably since The Abyss, to prove that we can do everything with computers now. We don't need all these old-fashioned sculptors and painters, airbrush artists, model makers. We can do this all digitally. Well, you fucking can't. You know, what I would have done instead of trying to do all this digital bullshit. What's up, brother? There's Mike Marino right there. Is to find an actor who looked enormously like Peter Cushing to begin with. Fuck nailing his voice. It doesn't matter if the actor can do his voice or not. You can find a million people who can do that certain British quality. You know, you find plenty of people who can mimic his voice. On him, you then do prosthetics to maybe hollow him out a little more or whatever you want. Then you go in there digitally and modify it. Now this is going to sound really lame, but one of the most amazing special effects I have ever seen was a combination of what I'm talking about, digital and prosthetics. It was in one of the Twilight movies.
Was it The Birth?
All right. You know what? Oh, y'all laugh at that shit. I went to see the movie with my friend Michael because I heard that there was a really amazing effect. Not these two, a different one. I know a lot of mics. And I gave my money. I said 2 straight adult males. There is an effect. I don't know which is Breaking Dawn or fucking Vampire's Kiss, whatever the fuck it is. whichever one it is. The main chick is pregnant with the devil's baby. Or, you know, some vampire loser, whatever. So, the baby is supposed to be drawing her life essence and drinking her blood and blah, blah, blah. So they did a prosthetic on Kristen Stewart, is that her name? Kristen Stewart? They did an appliance like a zombie type thing. And then digitally, they subtracted. The movie is really stupid. It's not worth seeing. But this special effect is simply breathtaking. She looks like she lost 35 pounds. It's remarkable. And it was done with a combination of practical and digital effects working hand in hand. That's how it's done.
Was that Charles Porlier on that?
I think K&B might have done it. I'm not sure.
It was Arian.
Oh, did Arnie do the makeup for her?
Yeah.
Well, either way, it was fucking crazy.
Yeah, I saw it, I was concerned for her.
Did you see the makeup? Like the effect?
I didn't see the final thing. The makeup looked great.
It's fucking crazy because they drew her jawline in more, got rid of all the fat here and here, and I mean, at certain angles, you're just like, oh shit! Like it looks real.
It's rare.
Yeah, it's really good though, and they gave her this kind of hollow blue look around. You know, I'm sure the makeup itself alone was incredible, but that combined with the digital lessening, they made her neck thinner, her arms. I mean, it's incredible. Stuff we can't do because we can't subtract as much as we wish we could cut into an act or something. You know, to make a subtractive makeup, we can't. You know, and this with the combination of the two now you can. It's really something.
Upstairs, you mentioned briefly what you're working on Avatar. Can you talk a little bit about Avatar?
I should never bring up that I worked on that. What do you want to know?
Well, we're talking about, you know, where sources of inspiration in nature and how you adapt those and whether you do something totally different.
Well, I mean,
How much freedom did you have on that?
I had no freedom at all. Absolutely none. It was a pretty miserable working experience because not only was it a complete lack of freedom artistically, but then for all the work I did do, I got shafted in the credits. Because Stapleton Studio are such buddies with Jim Cameron and Happened Forever, they got virtually all the credit for everything. And there was a team of us working directly for Jim Cameron that he just shit on. He shit on all of us. And I'll never forgive that. It's one of the more bitter chapters in my history, which is why I don't like talking about it. It just makes me angry to think about. But,
Carlos Fuentes says
what's that?
I heard Carlos Fuentes shit on it too.
Well, yeah, I mean, Hollywood movies are no longer the opportunity that people, you know, it used to be an opportunity to work on a Hollywood film. You might get a chance to actually do something that shows up on screen the way you intended and looks good. Nowadays, it's a clusterfuck of ties and suits and bean counters and assholes who have no idea what, not only what the art we do is, they have no idea what film is. They don't care about the art. They want big names, the same tired names over and over. Why do you think we keep seeing The Rock and Vin Diesel and Johnny Depp and Brad Pitt and, you know, the same old fucking jerks? We almost never see someone new, except when those jerks get old enough that it's kind of like, well, you're kind of a mom now. What do you mean? I'm Jennifer Aniston, don't you that? Sorry, but you're getting kind of old, baby. They're going to pull in some new bitch like Kristen Stewart. And guess what? 10 years, she'll be too fucking old. And they'll kick her out in favor of some new chick. You know what I mean? And that's one of the angers that a lot of women have with Hollywood. They don't do that quite as quickly with men. Do it real quick with women. Once you're no longer seen as young and sexy, bye. You know? I mean, that's the way Hollywood's always been, I guess. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, except for Meryl Streep, she'll always have work. But the fact of the matter is that Hollywood is a completely uncreative nightmare now. I hate it. And the only reason that I stay is because I don't know what to do otherwise. I really don't. I have no idea what to do. I have to do something creative. And this is what I know how to do. Make stupid fantasy monster shit. And I don't know how to fix a car. I don't want to go and load timber into the back of some truck. You know, I don't know. And I'm being funny, but at the same time, it's really a rather sad state of affairs. Because, you know, I feel very let down. You know, when I moved out to Hollywood when I was 21, I thought, I made it. This is it. You know, I want to do stuff that's going to show up on film. And while I've done stuff that showed up on film, it's not nearly as gratifying as I thought it would be because it's usually in a terrible film. I will never ever work on a classic. I worked on some good movies, like The Mist and Galaxy Quest. Great movies. Avatar sucked. I don't care what anyone said. Avatar was so stupid. It's Pocahontas with blue people. It's fucking Pocahontas. And I feel like, but all Fern Gully, all that stuff, Dance with Wolves, all of them came from Pocahontas. All of it's the Pocahontas fate. You know, just all of it is just so stupid anymore. You know, I'm never going to work on a 2001 or Wizard of Oz or a King Kong, because those movies aren't getting made anymore. They are too risky. These films, that's what was so magical about cinema in the 80s. A film would just come out of nowhere. I remember seeing, for a long time, and starting to change it a bit, into more of a weird-looking character there. I remember, before movies started, they would have this slideshow. It was before they had, like, and now here's the latest piece of shit from some American Idol failure. Here's the new hit, piece of shit. You know, you have to listen to it, and they're like, please start Fast and the Furious 9 or whatever the fuck. So, before then, they used to have just slides. You know, your picture here, you know. And sometimes the slides would be of upcoming films. The distributors usually they only heard the title. So, they had no idea what the movie was, they'd seen no previews, they'd seen no trailer, they didn't know anything. They only heard a title. This movie's coming in, make a slide for it. Someone had done a vector graphic of some guy's face with a crosshairs in it. RoboCop, coming soon. And I thought, this is gonna suck. What the RoboCop? Are you kidding me? And then it came out though. And I saw it about 8 times in theater and was like, oh, that's one of the best films I've ever seen.
Even some trailers.
These films came out of nowhere in the 80s. They came out of nowhere. I was telling them, were you upstairs when I was talking about 1982?
Oh, I missed that.
1982. E.T., The Thing, Poltergeist, Conan, Tron, Creepshow, Dark Crystal,
Was it Wrath of
The
Khan?
Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
Me,
Huh?
1982.
Oh, and you! I mean, 1982, man. Blade Runner. It's fucking unbelievable. That was just 1 year. And masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece. Blade Runner, E.T., The Dark Crystal.
But like you said, also things that weren't popular at the time, that took a bit of time before they became classics.
I don't think so. I think people knew at the time E.T. was going to be here to stay.
With Blade Runner and Dark Crystal.
And I mean, but the thing, what was different was, they obviously, nothing's a classic instantly. You have to see if it doesn't really stand the test of time. Avatar, for instance, hasn't and won't. It'll be just another leap in digital technology, but it's not a classic film. A classic is something like 2001: A Space Odyssey or Dawn of the Dead, something like that. These are classics. And the big difference is, when a movie comes out now, everyone's fighting on Facebook. I hated it. I loved it. You know. Back then, the consensus on every one of these things was, holy shit, that was awesome. I defy you to find somebody who's telling you the truth who says they hated E.T. when it came out. Bullshit. The world is in love with that little turd. That was it. You know? Everyone thought Poltergeist was incredible at the time. The Thing, even though it flopped because it was released literally in the weekend between Poltergeist and E.T. Big mistake. But how could Universal have seen what was coming? Then again, they put out E.T., so they probably don't care that much. But, you know, even films that failed, when you did see them, you knew they were good. The Dark Crystal flopped miserably at the box office. And look what it is now, you know? So, there was a quantifiable difference. Back then, you left a movie theater, it was very rare to leave a theater going, well, that sucked. Now it's very rare to leave it and say, that was incredible.
Just oversaturation and...
It's just bad filmmaking. Bad filmmakers and bad filmmaking. Did you see The Witch?
Oh, God.
That's amazing. That's a great film. One of the only great films in a long time. The Witch. Nobody of note is in The Witch. Scarlett Johansson was not asked. Okay?
Why?
Huh?
Yeah, why? So,
I mean, it's not that Scarlett Johansson is bad, but I mean, these people, okay, wow. But the fact of the matter is that she's just one of those actresses who's in fucking everything, you know. And this film, I mean, if you've ever watched The British Office, you might recognize the lead guy who's in the film. I'm not talking about Ricky Gervais, I'm saying the lead guy who's in The Witch played one of... Oh, you're British yourself, aren't you? Okay, well, the real jerk that Ricky Gervais idolizes at first and then tells off at the end, that tall, skinny guy.
he was in one of the Pirates films, wasn't he? Pirates?
I don't know. I don't see those pieces. But whoever that guy was, he stars, and it's a very authentic feeling horror film. It's so authentic that the guy who wrote it studied, really got in depth about the history of the language, the way they spoke, and there are performances in it, especially one by a kid, a little boy. You just can't believe it's a kid doing it. These are the little films that no one hears about, but I'll bet you heard about Pacific Rim, didn't you?
Did Costa Rica.
Fucking hell. What a waste. Most film is very lazy now. No one really tries to do anything that might actually be any work.
Hey, what about the box trolls? They put a lot of work into that.
Did they? I didn't see the box trolls.
It's really fun.
But again, this is
Pictures like Ray Harryhausen's movies,
Yeah,
right?
it's all stop motion, but then they enhanced it with CGI.
isn't that kind of a kids movie though?
Oh.
All right, I'm almost done, guys. I mean, I wish I had 2 more hours. your favorite film?
Mine? Maybe a Tarkovsky film. Andrei Rublev.
Which one?
Andrei Rublev.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah. There's one scene where he makes this bell out of clay, where they cast it and then pour steel into it. It's amazing scene.
It's incredible.
That's my favorite movie too, man.
Yeah.
You never hear that.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Andrei Rublev. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, it's like 5 hours, it's in black and white in Russian.
That sounds a bit deep, but it's, I think I've watched it like that many times and fallen asleep every time. But there's something about it. You get something different each time.
So I think your sentiment for the industry is probably shared by just about everybody else.
What's that?
So your sentiment towards the industry is probably shared by just about everybody over 50.
That's because we're old losers.
I don't know, man. There's only so long people can put up with it. I don't
Been
think.
putting up with it for 25 years.
It's gotta
Honestly,
break. It's gotta break. Like,
Well,
it makes money, but like,
I mean, to be fair, to be perfectly, painfully, agonizingly, truly fair, Jurassic Park's a terrible film. There's no script. It's people running away. That's what it is. But the effects are so good, I keep going to see the pieces of shit because I like watching dinosaurs eat human beings. But the films are just garbage. I mean, they have no brain at all behind them. You know, absolutely none. It's a bunch of running.
Don't sugarcoat it.
I'm curious about what your opinion is on Mad Max Fury Road.
Well, I know you're a big fan.
Yeah.
It's also 2 hours of people running away.
Yeah, 2 hour project.
Yeah, I didn't like it, and I didn't see what the big deal was either. You know, visually, yeah, it's neat, but I mean, that makes it no different than, you know, what was that dumb thing that just came out with Scarlett Johansson? What was that thing?
Like Ghost in the Shell or something?
Oh, that's fair.
Well, I mean, but visually it was really something. I mean, I did go see it, and I was like, wow, this is an amazing visual thing.
They have some really good practical and special effects in that as well, with the geisha doll heads were all masks. And
Yeah,
a lot of stuff going on inside.
but, yeah, I don't know, man. Movies just ain't what they were, just aren't.
You mentioned Chris Cunningham before.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, he worked on his. I mean, I would think it would have been amazing to see something. He was going to do Neuromancer, I thought,
For a while, that was a long time ago.
and then Matrix
20
came
years.
out. But it would have been. Has he got any plans to do a feature still? Or?
I have no idea what he's doing. All right, well, it's kind of silly looking, but we've got a little stupid one. Are there any questions about anything?
When you hollow the eyes out like that, you go to, say you cast this in red, how would you paint them?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that aren't finished enough about this to paint. It's hard to answer that. Anyone else want to know any more bitter thoughts I have about anything? Issues with my mother?
Do you ever in an odd moments get drawn to doing beauty sculpture?
What's that?
Have you ever in an odd moment gotten drawn to doing especially beautiful characters?
Oh, sure. In fact, one of the things I want to do more than anything is a series of dark fairies. I have this idea of doing these fairies that are, you know, kind of classic in overall structure, you know, thin and waifish and big eyes, but really creepy and scary with all black eyes. And, you know, kind of, they look like they're malevolent.
What do you want out of me? What do you say to kids who are just coming out at places like cinema makeup school, face-off kiss, and
Learn the computer. It's where it's going, learn fucking ZBrush right now.
Screw that. I wanna do that. I don't wanna do ZBrush.
Okay, no, it's okay, don't make any money at it though. Someone else, you will not.
It's not all about money.
That's right, it's not. But I'm saying, he's asking about kids coming out of school right now.
Well, how about the theater?
Well,
How
theater's
about
entirely different.
How about, is it possible to reroute that energy into the live theater? Where
You
have
can,
to see real
but-
people and real things happening?
The kind of work, though, that is needed in theater is an entirely different discipline, I think. Subtle prosthetic makeups and monsters or something that just isn't in theater, usually. There can be some stuff like that, like maybe you're called upon to do The Elephant Man or something like that. But I mean, the theater is great because it's stylized, you know? I remember seeing Equus and they did the horses with these wireframe heads, and the front legs of the actor were the horse's front legs. To me, that's where the power of that lies. Have you seen the Lion King?
No, but I've seen, commercials and all that.
Well, that's powerful because of the way they symbolize those animals. They're not, it would be really stupid to try to create a realistic giraffe that was what? It's beautiful because of its symbolism, And I don't see subtle work or serious monster shit being used in theater. Maybe some kind of subtle prosthetics if, like Mark Twain and Night or something like that, but.
It has to sustain 8 times a week.
What's that?
I work on Broadway. It has to sustain 8 times a week. And 2 in a day sometimes.
Yeah, but, there's that aspect as well, but it also often has to be very quick change, and prosthetic makeup just is not that kind of thing. It takes hours
that
of
Green
time.
Goblin makeup in intermission, basically, so.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and they had to run new pieces every single day for it. So
There's a
it had-
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Broadway show?
Yeah. It was terrible, but it lasted for a few years.
And we get to thank Phantom for buying up the world's supply of 355, unfortunately, in the industry. So before we had Telesys.
Who did?
Phantom of the Opera bought every existing
Oh.
bit of 355 before Telesys came out. And for a couple of years, we had nothing except chewing gum. Thank you, Phantom.
Anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you.